2, 1. Nick Fantauzzi.
Yep. How's it going?
I'm doing great. We're finally here. We did it. We're trying to adjust this whole thing for a good probably 20 minutes. And I apologize for this wait. I was trying to figure out my equipment here.
Oh,
but
no worries.
I feel like we're finally rolling, so that's good. Quick question so that I know that we're cool. Do I have your permission to record this whole thing and post and all of that?
Yep.
Perfect. I always forget about asking that kind of thing. Anyways, yeah, so, our friend Sean basically told me about you. Like, yo, there's this fighter here. I know him. He's my friend. Check him out. Let's get him on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, man, sure. Like, what's his name? And, like, give me the link and all that. And so I looked you up. I was, like, doing my homework. Yep. And you're fighting at 175 or at the cruiserweight, depending on the situation. But officially, you're at 175.
Yeah.
And you're fighting out of Toronto, Canada. Mm-hmm. And which is pretty cool. You know, we don't have a lot of boxers here, but the ones that I do, I try to get on the podcast and talk about it. So welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, and you have a great voice, by the way. Just make sure to control your sound with the microphone very close to the lips, like with a fist like this. But yeah, and man. It was cool. I watched your fights yesterday and the day before, and you were a fun fighter. And then I texted Ryan Scalia. He's like, "Yo, what do you think about him?" He's like, "Yeah, he's fun. I went to his fights, watched him live. Like, you're entertaining, and it's pretty cool because that's what boxing is about. Besides just having that sweet science, you also want to make sure that people are come and watch your fights. And when I watch your fights, you are actually gathering a lot of crowd. You have a lot of people cheering for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate that way. So.
Yeah, how does that happen? Are you just well known, or you have like a lot of family that just come to the fights? Like, what's
it started off like I've always had a lot of support throughout my amateur career. Like my first amateur fight, I think I had like 50 people come. And then amateur fighting, it was really tough because sometimes I go to the event and then the opponent wouldn't show up or this or that. And I kept inviting people, and then people would come for no reason. So then I kind of stopped inviting people to my fights as an amateur. And then when pro hit, I'm like, this is my time. I have to just, invite whoever I can. So I just post on social media. And then luckily for me, I have a lot of supportive friends and family, and they have friends and family of theirs that are supportive. So it kind of just grew from there.
Listen, you're good on social media. I see your posts. I'm sharing them, sort of like promoting our episode of the Buzz right now. But you are putting out some good content, and you're not shy to be on camera. You're out there, and you're providing some good advice. Like this morning, you posted about how to lose weight or like the misconceptions of losing weight during the boxing fight. It was like you're providing some cool stuff. And
thanks.
How does that come along? Like you're just kind of like decided to create some
to be honest, I have a lot of knowledge that I haven't been able to portray that much through social media, and then it's a free outlet that you have, so why not use it?
Right.
So basically, I have a lot of ideas in my head, and I'm trying to get it out in a positive and encouraging way. Like today, for example, I'm not trying to say to people, "Hey, come train with me," or this or that. Just giving them advice, just if they want to get off the couch and just move around a little bit, just to know that it's not as simple as it seems, and you don't just hire anybody as a trainer without doing the work yourself as well.
Right, absolutely. And I feel like that's important. That's what every fighter should embrace, the social media, and the fact that you said that's a free outlet that you can actually, provide all that content. And a lot of people are missing out, not only athletes, but also professionals, even if you're into some things like, you are in real estate, or you are into, crafting or arts or anything like that. Social media is such a great promotional tool that you can use. Yep. So it's not just for posting selfies and stuff. But, just like recently I saw, because I'm in the industry as well for like digital performance marketing. That's what I do day to day. And I am seeing Floyd Mayweather right now signed, I guess, an agreement, like an affiliate agreement, I think, or something based on his Instagram with the CBD company. And so he basically promotes CBD. I think he just posted a check that he's paying for all of that. Like, I don't know. It's just like a CBD company. There's so many of them right now. Yeah. And even Floyd is actually like trading his Instagram reach, for that. So everyone is in the game, and everyone's doing that. And the fact that you're knowing about that, and you already, and not just like even personally for yourself, but you're providing like actual content for people. So that's pretty cool as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Because the whole thing is, I hate posting when I'm training. I can't stand being at the gym and then having somebody, hold on a second, I have to make a video of this. The way I look at it, when I'm training, my phone's in my bag, I'm not touching it. If you have somebody that's nice enough to come watch you train and then film stuff for you, that's fine. But a lot of the fighters these days, that's one of the downfalls I think they have is most of their time is trying to create content and they're not training.
Right.
So I try to do it when I'm not training. Like
there's
in
balance
between.
to this. There's balance to this.
Big time.
Would you rather have like someone to follow you around and like so that you don't care about it? They're just if they want to get some content, they do it rather than you worried about that, or that's the same thing. You just don't want them around because you get distracted.
No, I wouldn't mind. For me, having more eyes on me, it just makes me better for certain situations. Like even for fighting, people say, "Oh, Nick, how do you?" I've had multiple professional fighters, talk to me and say, "You're so cool and calm under the lights." Like, you have a lot of people that are, whether it be sponsors or just people that are coming to watch and be entertained. It's a lot of pressure, and I don't deal with it well. How do you deal with it? The way I look at it is the more eyes you have, especially in training, it gives you a little more experience being looked at all the time. So now for me, it's nothing. Like me having a fight is the same thing for me taking a walk in the park.
There's people say that about you and to your face as well, that wow, you're so nice, you're so humble, you're so such a nice guy.
Well, thank you.
So but then you're a boxer, and when you're in the ring you're boxing. And so how much of that is a play? You know what I mean? How much you just kind of trying to hide your real nature, or are you really that? But I just don't think it's possible. If you are in this sport, you have to be a savage in the ring. And
I get that. And I've heard that from the beginning of even before I even stepped in a boxing ring, when I said I want to be a boxer. I watched Rocky movies and I want to be a boxer. And I just started hitting my bag. People will look at me and say, Nick, that's not you. You're not a boxer. You're not. But to be honest with me, what people have to understand is it doesn't matter about the niceness or whatever you want to call it. To me, boxing is a sport, and I'm a very, very competitive person. Like, if say I get beat in a basketball game, I'm gonna work hard and practice, and I'm gonna get better. Next time, you're not beating me again. I've always had that mentality. So it's the same with sports. I'm actually not a violent person whatsoever. I'm not a guy who goes around picking fights. If someone comes up to me, I'd rather avoid it or talk my way out of the situation, as opposed to, use my skills, which I don't feel I have to do. Like, I'm very confident with my ability. So I don't have a chip on my shoulder. And when I step into the ring, it's like a switch, right? I don't wish any permanent harm on my opponent, but when I'm in there, I want to knock their head off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's something that wakes up in you. So, but in real life, you never lose it. You never lose your temper. Nothing snaps.
Everyone's loses their temper a little bit, and I'm one of those people that I could lose my temper for a second, and then a second later I'll be happy. You know what I mean? I don't hold it. I just understand in life in general, things are going to happen that you're not going to like. People are going to be people that you don't like at certain points. But what I learned to do is take them for who they are, take situations for what they are. Is this really going to affect me in 5 years or five days? It doesn't matter. If it's not going to affect me for the long term, I don't need to stress about it.
So let's start from your career. I know you spoke about this publicly several times already, about your way, about your path, but I just want, for my listeners to kind of dive into how you started in boxing. Let's kind of start from the beginning. And you mentioned that you were inspired by Sylvester Stallone's movie, and which is funny. I remembered what's his name? Eddie Murphy was joking about this. Every Italian kid watched Rocky Balboa, and every sudden he's a boxer. It's so funny. But but I mean, the movies are still great, and everyone's talking about them. But let's dive in. Okay, so that was your start, but then you got into the ring, and I think you said you were 7 years old when you first got into the ring, or am I mistaken?
No, yeah, I'm mistaken. I was 15 when I first hit a punching bag.
I see. Okay.
But then when there was no gym. I grew up in Vaughan, Maple, Ontario. It's a very small town. There's not much going on other than hockey, the hockey arena.
Right.
And there's no boxing gyms around. I'm a teenager. I have no money. My parents wouldn't pay. My parents are very supportive. I was in every sport you could imagine, but my parents wouldn't pay for boxing. My dad loves boxing, but my mom hates boxing. A lot of I guess mothers would. So I didn't have any funds to go to Toronto. I didn't have a car when I was younger. So right when a gym opened up in Vaughan, my buddy texted me, "Hey, there's a boxing gym opening up." It only lasted 6 months. I had my first fight out of the gym. 5 months after I first trained, I had my first amateur fight. And
so overall, your parents were cool with that, right? They were not
my mom hates it to this day.
Okay.
To this day, they don't. That's what I'm saying. That boxing's one thing where if you want to do it on your own. You know what I mean? Because it's not a lot of mothers want their kids boxing. But my dad loves it. And he actually likes MMA more than boxing, but still haven't convinced him otherwise.
Is that a betrayal for you? Like,
not really, because he wrestled in high school, so I can understand why he likes that stuff.
Yeah.
And
and I guess you follow that a little bit as well, right?
I kind of do, just as
As a fan.
Yeah, just like striking is striking in a way, not the same, but it's entertainment. And there's certain, like, I can't watch like obscure MMA fights. I don't really care for, I guess.
Right.
But if it's at like the high level
The top
and stuff,
tier,
I could watch it.
Have you
Like,
seen that Gagey fight versus what's his name? Not Nate Diaz.
Ferguson?
Ferguson. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because there was a lot of striking there. It was not a
Yeah.
boxing striking, but from a wrestler
Yeah.
perspective, because Gagey is a wrestler.
Yeah. You know what? I saw like half of that fight I ended up
yeah?
seeing, but like those guys are just, going at it toe to toe, and they're just trying to see who's tougher and see who's got the bigger set of, cojones.
What do you think about Gagey versus Khabib? Who do you got?
It's Khabib. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to go against him because he's pretty well rounded in everything. Gaethje, it's kind of like if you wanna fight his fight, he's gonna win. But Khabib's not gonna fight his fight.
I was watching his interview, and Khabib said Gaethje is the best so far, the best opponent that I have, the toughest in terms of defense against grappling, against wrestling.
Yep.
But he's also, if we're talking about stamina, he's not even my top 5. So it's like it's a weird kind of like thing, and I don't think I don't think Khabib is trying to be funny or anything. Like, I think he's sincere about it. But yeah, that's an interesting fight to see, and I also have Khabib.
Yeah.
But let's go back to you. Okay.
Sure.
So you got your first fight 6 months later.
Yeah.
After you started.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good experience. It was in front of 500 people.
Damn.
And like I said, I had 50 people come, which wasn't a lot, but that was my immediate family and friends.
50 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a guy who's 15 or 16.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, that was my first fight. It was in 2007. So I was at the time 21, I think.
Okay.
Turning 20. Yeah.
And point was that 50 people is a lot.
100%. Yeah.
Especially if it's not like it's your debut, So you're like, I don't want to fuck that.
And I put so much pressure on myself for that debut. I'm like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to knock this guy off with one punch. And I remember the change room, or sorry, the weigh-in, like it was yesterday. They kind of had this little camaraderie thing. Oh, how big's your guy? How big's your guy? They told me the guy was 6'1", about 190 pounds. So one guy walks into the room, and I go, my trainer's like, oh, that's probably your guy. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then all of a sudden, this huge guy comes in, this big Serbian guy that's like 6'4" and like huge, right? and then someone said, hey, Nick, because his name was Nick as well. And I'm like, oh, that's my opponent. All right. So I got all these people coming. I got this big guy coming in. I'm like, all right, I'll take care of business.
All right.
And it was pretty cool because 30 seconds in, he came really aggressive. I stepped back 1, 2, 3. And he fell backwards, and his legs went over his head.
Damn.
30 seconds in.
Wow. So talk to me about, actually, like, I'm curious about amateur boxing in Canada, in Ontario in general, because I know there's a lot of speculation, a lot of kind of boxing Ontario or boxing Canada. Is that two different things, by the way? Is Ontario...
Boxing Ontario is the organization. I guess right now it's the organization in terms of Ontario boxing. And then there's like, boxing, Alberta, boxing, PEI, all that kind of stuff. Boxing BC. So it's like the main organization, and then.
But it sounds like they have their stuff together in terms of boxing Ontario here locally, like the amateur boxing, because it produces a lot of boxers. How was your experience? Because you've been into amateurs for 10 years.
Yeah.
Have you experienced anything that you would like not agree with them or anything like that?
See, it's a tough question because at the time there was two organizations going on. There was Boxing Ontario, and then there's OBA, which is Ontario Boxing Association. There were two different styles of boxing, two different set of rules. I competed for both, which I guess is good for experience. If you want to go to the Olympics, you have to be Boxing Ontario. You can't be in the other organization. But right now, they're not even around right now. So, as far as things I'd changed, the only thing, like the thing that I hated the most about amateur boxing was there was no penalties. If I took a fight and I go to the fight and I'm ready to fight, the other person doesn't show up. It's, well, he doesn't show up. You don't get a win. You don't get nothing like that. It's
no repercussions.
And there's no punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, even if you're standing there ready to go into the ring and say you get scared and say, I'm not fighting, there was no repercussions from that. There's no suspension. So then I was like, I never got excited for fights. Even to this day, when I have a pro fight, I don't get excited because I'm so used to being let down.
Last minute something would happen and the fight would cancel. Because I know like a lot of opponents in your professional career got basically dropped.
Tons.
Yeah. And it's always like that in boxing, especially like actually not even in the beginning, at the very top as well. Like you never know.
Yep.
You've been in amateurs for 10 years. And I've seen that you spoke about that before. You were planning to be in pros after 5 years of your amateur career. And then, so what exactly happened? Why didn't you get into pros after 5 years?
Basically overworking myself, overworking my body. I'd work my day job. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to my day job. After work, I'd go to the gym. I'd sleep in my car for half an hour. After I'm done that, I had to get that power nap in. I'd start training, and then sometimes I'd work with people after I trained, or I'd, especially being younger, I got to do 2 days. So then I'd go do like a strength and conditioning workout or running. I just overworked my body. I never slept. I'd have a couple hours of sleep a night. My body just kept getting injury after injury after injury. And then, it was bad injuries too, severe ones. I had a herniated disc in my back. I had a ruptured bicep, along with many other things. So eventually what I said to myself is, you know what? You put so much time into this, and everyone who loves me and respects my career and knows, hey, Nick, you always win, but your body's always breaking down. Like, maybe it's not for you. So I kind of thought to myself, and I said, you know what? I put all this time in. I put all this work in. I'm not letting myself down. I don't care about anybody else. I'm doing what I want to do. And I quit my job of 11 years working with the city of Vaughan. I quit my job, and I started boxing full time. I started training a few clients to help get me by financially.
And at that point, how old were you? Because you weren't a kid anymore.
I was 31.
That's a very uncommon thing to start professionals at that age.
Big time. And would I have liked to start a lot sooner? Yes. I would have loved to. But at the same time, maybe things wouldn't have worked out. Maybe it happened for a reason.
Of course.
Maybe you back then. Know. Yeah. So, the good thing about this is, yes, I've been amateur boxing for 10 years. In Canada, because of my weight class, I was fighting at 200 pounds. I was taking fights. I was 190 pounds taking fights against the guys 240, 250 and beating them. Right. And because I had to take those fights. They put things in my pockets. I weighed them with shorts just so I could weigh enough on the scale, so they let it happen. Yeah. Like it was that bad. So, if I was in another country, either, US, if I was in Russia, I probably would have had in that time 400 amateur fights. But the good thing is I got a lot of experience. I spar with a lot of top pro fighters. A lot of my training partners were great fighters as well. So I got the experience that I needed. So in that case, I've never been beat up in my life. I've never had a fight where it was like a grueling fight. Never. So my body, even though I'm an older age now, 34, I'm still fresh. I'm still young. Exactly, because you didn't go through all the punishments of the professional boxing and the 12 rounds routes and all of that, where you're just getting so you are. It's like they recently spoke about Canelo on the podcast that I listened to. Canelo is 30, but he's old 30 because he went through so much during his professional career, and I tend to agree with that because of all his surgeries and all that they talk about that. But still, though, 31 years old, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go pro. What really what was your driver? Because I mean, I'm turning 29 in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm feeling weirdly different. It's I feel it. Maybe it's because I'm watch boxing and boxing commentary so much, and they all talk about this freaking father age. It's in your head. Because I always thought it's young, but it's like all of a sudden I'm like, but I'm not even talking physical. I'm talking mental. I'm like, am I still hungry? Do I still have that hunger? Am I still a hustler? Am I still, do I still want to succeed? Do I want to settle for a 9 to 5, or do I want to go crush it? You know what I mean? And I want to believe that I still am there in that level, but sometimes I question myself, and sometimes I get into this, oh shit, I'm getting relaxed, I'm I'm settling. So what was the driver factor for you? Were there any doubts about that? Because as you say, there's naysayers in your life. And see, the naysayers I actually like. They're like my I'm gonna say fuel, bad term, but they're my steroids. Okay. They're what puts me over what I should be. I don't care what people think, but that being said, when I hear someone say I can't do something, it's like, I already know I can, but I'm going to show you. And it'll give me that much effort, extra effort, that I could, go when I'm a little bit tired, or I don't feel like going to the gym today, but I'm going to go today. But that being said, also being older, and this is one of the things that I like about myself being an older fighter, I'm smarter. It's, you hold all Floyd Mayweather, like, oh, hard work, dedication, all this kind of stuff. I guarantee you Floyd takes rest when he needs to take rest. He's not working 7 days straight. He's taking one day off. He's taking a Sunday where he's not really doing much and recuperating his body and maybe eating something he doesn't normally eat. That kind of stuff goes a long way, and that could prolong your career a long time. So instead of being, oh, I got to go to the gym for a second or third time, some days you could take it a little off and maybe go to the gym once and maybe just do some light work later, Yeah.
Yeah, with all that being said, and with all that in your mind, you went at it, and you took your chance, and you're 10-0 right now, professional boxer. Your career is being well developed right now.
Yep.
And I can pretty sure to say that if not for COVID, you'd probably already be fighting, right? Did you have any fights that you were scheduled but it was canceled due to COVID?
Yeah, April 20th, Lee Baxter was going to have another show, and that got canceled. Let's just say that big things are going to happen for me as soon as it is welcome back. The Canadian title, I'm getting it. I need that title.
Yeah,
that's what I want. I'm making it known.
What's the abbreviation for that? And the title?
There's a few different Canadian titles, but NCC is one of them. Yeah. There's a few different titles, so depending on what route you're going, but I just want the Canadian belt.
I know one of those belts is blue. That's all I know. Yeah. Which one is that?
I think that's the CPBC belt.
Okay. Yeah. Canadian sanctioning bodies too, man. So many of them in the world as well. I mean, there's such a mess in the United States. Are you at all following all this stuff? Are you following all the titles as a professional? Like, what's the WBC? What's the WBC in term? And what's the diamond belt? Like, all of that.
I've known, I have followed.
And that's just WBC, which there's like 3 other ones that are.
Yeah, but I follow them all, but I don't really even put too much into it right now. There's so many world titles out there that I kind of just, know the fighters, and that's who I care about. Like, you mentioned Canelo, him, Triple G. They fight. I don't care what belt they're fighting for. I care that they're fighting.
Yeah.
That's.
That's definitely, and that's what I'm kind of being reminded when I look at you. Your style is pretty interesting, because when I was watching your fight, first fight I watched you like on YouTube that come out was you at cruiserweight, and I was like, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Am I right?
That fight, I'm a light heavyweight. I don't fight above 175. That fight there's pullouts from different opponents. So the guy, they said we're not fighting under 178.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, sure, I'll fight at 178. Just last minute, the 2-3 pounds to me is not a big deal. So I took that fight. That fight was actually a really hard fight. I had that morning waking up, bending down to put my underwear on, I had back spasms. I couldn't even move that fight. I don't know if you noticed, but I was very stiff in that fight.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I wish, because I didn't even look into the weight category. I was like, I wish he would go down to 175. Yeah. And then I watched the other ones. Like, oh, there we go. Now we're talking. All of a sudden, you're super active. You're going forward fighter.
Yeah.
Definitely very exciting. And the most exciting is like the crowds that you're gathering, because we're talking about Canada. It's especially here in Toronto area. We're not talking Quebec right now, where people are obsessed with boxing. So it's definitely like a huge sign of success.
Yeah.
Or like future potential to get those crowds.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because it's even my career. When I look at my career, when I first started, the first couple fights I had, all of a sudden it's like, oh, who's this guy? He's got all these people here, right? And then I'd hear things, he's not that good. He just, he's popular, so they're exciting, because exciting fights and this, but but he's not that good. All of a sudden, I had all those naysayers saying, this guy's actually pretty good. Like, when they started seeing more fights, and to them it was like, I thought you were just, working off being, a popular fighter. But then all of a sudden, it's like I take on challenges that, other people wouldn't have done. I take, my pro debut, the guy had 24 pro fights. He had a 50-50 record, but he had 24 pro fights. And I don't care who he is as a fighter. For me, that guy, a few guys pulled out and this and that. And then they said, Nick, it's a risky fight. He's got 24 fights. Do you want to take it? I said, sure, I'm down. So,
Absolutely. And, yeah, man, I just feel like, and let's be honest, like, you don't have any time to waste.
Exactly.
You just want to fight the best and be the best.
Exactly.
It's 175. I was watching, I think that was 175, like a year ago. Artur Beterbiev was fighting Gvozdyk.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think about that fight? That was I don't know why people don't talk about that
that was
much.
A really good fight, and they're both really good fighters.
Yeah, and got Gvozdyk retired after that, although I saw him training recently on Instagram, so I'm not sure what's that about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite a fight. It was
Yeah.
just such an interesting weight to fight in
Mhm.
because you have that power. I don't know. It's like, I mean, depends on the, who you are. But like at 175, the fights are looking so spectacular. But yeah, it was. And Bitter Beef is. Have you ever met him?
No.
He's in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
This is where he trains.
Mhm.
So that's the fighter at 175 that I really follow. Like I'm looking forward to seeing his next fight.
Yep.
Out of that category of weight, are there any guys that you feel like you'd like to face? Anyone you're following? And also, if you're considering maybe moving down to 168, that's also an interesting path because there's some good fighters in America as well.
Yep.
Are you like, what do you think about that? Do you following the guys, and who would you like to fight in those categories, 75 and 68?
As far as names, to be honest, I want to fight any of the top guys, right? I'm getting there. I'm 10-0, a few more fights, and then we're ready for that opportunity. We're still developing. I'm still developing as a fighter. If you named one person right now and said, would you fight him tomorrow? I would say yes. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. In my mind, could beat anybody. I just have to do it. And as far as names, just anybody in the top 10, you know what I mean? Top 10, top 20, which I haven't been close there with my opponents yet, but every fight it's getting more and more, like closer and closer. So there's that, and the opportunity at 168, that is definitely like a possibility for me because I make 175 without even trying, like literally without even trying. I just working hard and diet, and most of my fights at 175 away in 173. One of my fights, the guy, I believe they made it a stipulation. You said there was 2 fights that I was at cruiserweight. It was light heavyweight, but we gave them a couple pounds.
Okay.
So, they said, okay, this fight's at 178 as well. So what did I do? I said, you know what? I'm a light heavyweight. If you are not in shape a couple days before, you're asking to make it 178, sure, we'll give it to you. I'm fighting at 175. I came in at 175. So I came under the light heavyweight limit.
So, and basically, what you're saying is with basically some conditioning, some strength and conditioning, just kind of like overseeing that and focusing on that, you can make 168 no problem.
No problem.
You basically compete in that that weight as well.
Yeah, and even like I'm already working hard. The only thing that would change a bit is I'd be a little bit more strict with my diet because I make 175 easy. I could easily go down to 168. So if the opportunity is there, if I don't want to sound all business, but if the money's right, 168 is 100% possibility for me.
Yeah, and honestly, with your height, 168 is, and if you can make it like really, as you're saying, like no problem, that's a huge advantage for you because you're a big guy and for 168. Yeah,
and even for 175, like I've met the top guys. I've met Adonis Stevenson. I've met Badu Jack. All these guys, they're not bigger than me. You know what I mean? And that being said, it's not all about size, but I'm like. Yeah. I'm deceivingly strong. Like a lot of people look at me, lean, but that's usually how you're strong in boxing. But not only like you look at a guy like Deontay Wilder, the guy could punch like a mule, right? But physically, he's not a strong guy.
Right.
Physically, Tyson Fury, even though he's huge, could push him around like a rag doll or any of these guys. But me, I have a lot of physical strength as well as my punching power is there. So. 175 I'm strong, but 168 I'll probably be even stronger.
So you sound very pumped for that weight for 168.
You know what? I'm pumped for both. That's why it's good that I could go to both if the opportunity calls because that for me, either or it's easy.
So are you talking with Lee, for example, and say like, hey, just saying like I could make 168, so if you want to like prospect and see who else is out there, we can try.
We've briefly discussed that, but I've never really said, get me a fight at 168 or I could do this.
As long as he knows, right?
He already knows whatever he puts in front of me, I'm ready for. If he said to me, you're going to 160, I'll get down to 160 and I'll do it smart. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to go to 160, but even that would be an opportunity because
I feel like 160 is too much.
It's too much. It's too much, but I know I can do it if I need to because I'm professional. I could do. Honestly, it sounds stupid, but within reason, like, I can't fly, but I can do anything I put my mind to.
For sure. Yeah. What's motivating you? How do you keep your motivation up? Do you follow any? Like, do you watch any motivational speakers like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, like maybe like Klitschko's or whatever, because they're doing some of that? How do you pump yourself up?
To be honest, man, this sounds very weird, but I actually don't like that kind of stuff. To me, a lot of it is corny. I could take a few things that people say and use that, and I'm like, you know what, that makes sense. But a lot of it to me is very generic and very, you know what I mean? So My motivation for myself have a few reasons. They say never talk about money, as a motivation, but you know what? It is a motivation. You want to better your life. You want to better your life for you, your family, everybody. So that I do use a motivation, but the biggest source of my motivation when it comes to boxing is my will to succeed and my drive, my competitiveness. Like I'm a very good sport. Like I used to. This is a stupid example. I used to play soccer on a rep team in Vaughan. And I was like, 13 years old, soccer. And so I'm playing that. The guys' team's demolishing the girls' team. We're up by 10 goals. It's so easy. Not because I wanted to score points to the ladies, but I joined the ladies' team to help them get better. And we ended up scoring a lot of goals because with me, I don't want that easy competition. I would rather be tested, and I'd rather just work hard and know that I had a good game instead of cruise and win by 20 goals.
So would you say then you're just naturally very competitive?
Big time. Yeah. And that's why like people say, oh, Nick, you're not an aggressive guy. You're not a violent guy. You can't box. To me, that's not even, it's a sport to me, but it's a sport that's very physical. And I use my attributes like good. Like, it's like the way you said it is like, maybe is the niceness like kind of a front. If anything, I kind of toned down my attitude because I don't want people to think it's fake because it's not. Like, I just generally think it's good to just be a decent person, like, and work hard. And that's kind of, and it sounds stupid, but look at, I'm not going to bring this up again, but Rocky Balboa, you know what I mean? When I saw those movies, it's not like, oh, I'm a fighter, I'm going to be a fighter. It sounds weird. I saw a lot of attributes in myself that he portrayed. Like, he's very confident, but at the same time, he's reserved and he's not boisterous. You know what I mean? He doesn't talk about himself or anything like that. So I saw a few things in myself in movie character, and you're an impressionable 15-year-old kid. So
because let's put it that way, the boxing movies, it's the archetype. You're looking at those guys, and the thing that you brought up is confidence, and confidence, I would say, it's probably 70% success in the sport, based on like people that I talk to and what I experience is that you have to have that mindset. You shouldn't doubt yourself. You should know that you go there not just to fight, but you go there for a win. You go there to conquer. Let's take a quick pause so that we can, check everything, and then we'll be back.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, and we're back. So one thing we were talking about motivation and character, and I was wondering, for people who want to get in boxing, especially like maybe the amateur guys, who are in the amateur guys boxing and they're considering professionals. What would you suggest them do? What advice would you tell them to follow? And most importantly, what advice would you tell them not to follow?
Okay, that's a great question. Advice to follow. Take my advice on this because this is what I did. A lot of people I realized as amateurs, they were protected. They didn't want to take certain fights because they weren't ready or this or that. I went the other route where anybody who's the best, I wanted to fight, and I did. I called out people. I said to my trainer, I want to fight that. I saw one guy fight. I want to fight that guy. Like, that's what I did. And a lot of people these days are too protective over even amateur fighters. And it's like, you want to win all the time. I always want to win, but you want to take chances where even if you do lose as an amateur, you learn from it. So even if you know a guy's way better than you, take the fight, you'll learn, you'll get better. That's one piece of advice I'd tell amateurs is fight anybody, right? You can't, if you start winning a few fights and you feel good about yourself, but you didn't beat good people, you're not going to be confident. You're going to go against somebody good eventually, and you're going to lose just before you even get in the ring. That's one thing I'd probably say, to really just go for the best and try to compete,
So watching your records basically on amateur, really like trying to pump it up, it wouldn't bring you as much of return on investment in your professional career as people think. So,
exactly. Yeah. But obviously you wanted to get noticed, to get somewhere, especially being a pro. It would be nice to be undefeated, to go to the Olympics, but it doesn't happen. Everyone, Roy Jones, one of my favorite fighters of all time, had like probably, I don't know, I don't remember the number, but something like 20 losses. Mayweather had, I think, 12 or 15, something like that. Everybody has losses, well, for the most part, right? And that shows a sign of having experience. You're not going to be an amateur fighter, be undefeated with a lot of fights unless it just doesn't happen.
Have you ever considered Olympics, by the way? Because I feel like that's something that amateurs are also looking forward to a lot.
To be honest, I liked the idea, but I knew it was going to happen. I knew a lot of people in the industry saying there's no chance you're going to the Olympics in Canada, and that it's not because of skill, it's because of politics.
That's what everyone says about
Yeah.
local Olympics.
Yeah.
What would you say your experience, or at least what do you hear is the main political, I would say, hoops that you need to jump through, or it's like a ceiling that you need to break through?
I just heard you need to have a lot of fights. Like from what I was told, and I might be wrong, but from what I was told, you could have, say 50 fights, and the other guy who they end up sending has, has 100 fights. You beat that guy every single time you fought. You beat him, but since he has more fights, they're gonna send him. That's just under the impression I was given. That's one of the kind of stipulations I heard. So I was kind of, as much as I don't care what people think, I was kind of pushed away from wanting to go that route because of how little experience I did have. So even if I knocked out every single opponent I had in the first round, they probably wouldn't have sent me. So I didn't go that route, especially because I started later, 20 years old, at the boxing gym. It's hard to be, Anthony Joshua did it, but it must be the same thing. They probably had nobody there that they sent. He had a lot of power, and then he just made it to the Olympics. You know what I mean? It all depends on where you are.
Looking back at your amateur career and with your professional career, let's say there is a billboard on the road and you have to leave a quote there. It can be someone else's quote or something that you can say or something, just your thoughts. You have to put something on that billboard so that people can see. What would you put there for people to see that that kind of relates to you?
Relates to me. This is a kind of quote that's funny. It's a Frank Sinatra quote, but from one of his songs, each time I find myself flat on my face, I pick myself up and get back in the race. And the reason why I like that quote is because I've been, through, just like a lot of athletes, a lot of bad injuries where you don't feel you're ever going to recover from it. When I tore my bicep, people said, even guys, millionaires that are professional athletes don't recover from a torn bicep, like a ruptured bicep like mine. My back injury, you're done. So every time I've kind of been down in the dumps when it comes to boxing, I always pick myself up and I keep going, because if it was easy, everyone would do it, and it's not easy. So you're going to go through things. I don't care who you are, what kind of an athlete you are. You're going to go through a lot of things that kind of set you back, test you physically or mentally, and you just got to push through them.
If we're talking about injuries or in general, let's say failures, maybe it's your failures of your body or something mentally or some situation that, you just couldn't pull through, but you actually gone through it. What would be the defining one that really kind of defined who you are and made you better?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind, so some of my fights are on YouTube. The funny thing is my worst fights are the ones that are on YouTube. I don't know how that happened, but one of the fights, it was against Max Corso, the Argentinian guy. He's a southpaw from Argentina and had a rock hard head. So I've never had a hand injury in my life. My hands are always really tough. I could hit a wall and it wouldn't bother me, And then, in the second round of that fight with him, he came in with his head down. He put his head like that, and I broke my hand. I broke this knuckle. So not even up here in my hand where I heard if you break your hand up here, your hand heals. It's like a cast. You could throw it again after a round, right? My knuckle was gone. It broke in 3 different places. So it took like a year and a half before, just recently, a couple months ago, I could actually hit my hardest for the first time. So that happened in the second round. And
did you feel it right away?
Right away.
You're like,
right away,
something's wrong.
Right away, I knew it, and I stopped throwing it. And I remember after the second round, I'm walking back to my corner. And when I was walking back to the corner, one of Lee Baxter's fighters, a friend of mine, Sam Vargas, he was right below right past the belt, the post. His heat was over there. He looks at me, he starts mimicking to throw my right hand. He's like, throw your right hand. I put my arm up, I go, it's broken. This is on my way back to the corner. And I had the whereabouts to know when I'm calm. I know it is what it is, and I'll get through it. So right away he looked and he's like, he just knew, right? Nobody in the crowd knew I broke my hand. After the fight, people would say, hey, Nick, good fight. You were being smart. You're being cautious. I showed them my hand, and I couldn't even go like this. I couldn't even move my hand. And then, to be honest, that showed me a lot, because you're in with a pro fighter that's coming. He was a dirty fighter. He was coming forward. He was awkward. And I just had to do what I had to do to win. Fighting, I fought 6 rounds with a broken hand, 6.5 rounds with a broken hand. I still won. So that kind of, it's like a test, you know what I mean? Can you go through it? Can you do something else? And again, just like everything, people don't know what you go through as a fighter. They don't know the full extent of what you go through. Right. And I'm not saying I had the hardest time, but other people, have gone through the same thing, and just a matter of how you deal with it. A lot of people could break their hand and then say, hey, I'm done.
What went through your head when you broke your hand at that particular moment? Because I'm curious what goes through fighters' mind, because those are your main tools, and one of them, and it's your heating head.
Yeah, you know, it was crazy because this sounds crazy, but even though I knew I shouldn't throw my right hand, you had to at some point throw your right hand, and I was trying my hardest to hit hard. And, you know, I'm a pretty strong puncher, and this is the first time in my life I felt like I was a little kid. I felt like I was throwing my hardest, but it came off like
closer to the mic.
Sorry, I was throwing my hardest, but it came off like a tap. Like my mind in the back of my head was pulling me back from throwing that shot.
Right.
As much as I wanted to will through it, and you know, in the last round, 20 seconds left, you'll see the videos online. And I almost knocked him out. I was throwing as hard as I can, even though it was not hard, because I had, you know, and I almost knocked him out, and I wish I did. But the good thing about that fight is people really said when they found out that I fought the whole fight with a broken hand, all of a sudden it opened eyes. It's like, holy crap, like this guy's not going anywhere. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned in one of your interviews that you don't feel pain in the ring. Like when you get hit in the face, you don't feel anything, and you sort of, and that sort of surprised everyone. But what do you think about that? Is that kind of plays? Is this a good thing for you or a bad thing for you?
Both.
Are you seeking to get hurt at some point just to see like how far can you go?
No, I don't want to get. This sounds weird. Me saying that, I don't want to get hit.
Have you seen that movie Southpaw with Jack Gyllenhaal?
Yeah,
fucking guy.
Yeah. Like I actually don't want to get hit at all. And to be honest, most of my fights, except 2 fights ago, I got hit cleaner than I've ever been hit, and it was probably in the whole fight. It lasted 4 rounds. I knocked him out in the 4th round. I got hit cleaner and more often than I've ever in any fight I've ever had. And it was still like 10 punches I got hit with. And everybody was shocked. Everyone's like, oh, you got hit so much. Oh my God, I couldn't believe the shots you took. But when you look at regular fighters, they take way more shots than that. Just people aren't used to seeing me take those shots.
Right.
And especially like as easy as I was taking them at my first fight back after the hand injury, right? It was messing with me a little bit, right? And, you know, so I pride myself with trying not to get hit. And that's what I teach all my students. Like, there's nothing good about being, other than, you know, knowing that you could handle it. You shouldn't be proud about being the toughest fighter or a tough fighter. You should be proud of not getting hit, because you want to have longevity. You want to be okay after this. This is a tough, brutal sport, right?
When you train, who's your trainer? Like when you're in the ring?
So I train with Tommy Howitt out of it's Olympia. It's pretty much a weightlifter's gym, but at the back of the gym there's a serious boxing gym with a lot of pro fighters, and I work with Tommy Howitt.
Great. Just wanted to make sure we give him a shout out. Yeah,
we've been working on a lot of stuff. So next fight after the Corona, you'll see the difference, and I've been really, really working hard. So
if you would talk about your style, what would you say your style is?
I'm a rangy fighter. I like keeping my range. Probably noticed in my fights, like I like to keep a distance because I'm a big, tall, light heavyweight. So I keep my distance. At the same time, I'm like aggressive, but I'm also I'm thinking in there. Like you see the way I move a lot. It's like I'm trying to avoid punches, but at the same time I'm being aggressive and working off the jab. Yeah.
Once you're gonna hit the kind of your career gonna go up, you will have to be marketing your fights. And a lot of people. That's why I'm not asking about your humble behavior. Is that humbleness rarely sells in terms of how people want to see. They want to see aggression versus aggression. Do you feel like you can put yourself into that mode, or are you going to still promote the good guy attitude?
You know what? You say the good guy attitude, but I don't see it as that way. I just be myself, and I'm not the type to talk bad to anybody. I never say anything bad to a opponent. I'm not going to get under their skin. I don't need to play those games. I don't want to play those games. A lot of people talk themselves up too much, and you know what happens there? They get humbled, right? So I just like to be myself, and just if I want to say something, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to hold back and say, this might maybe look this way. No, I'm not going to do that, right?
Right.
At the same time, though, I'm not going to be a McGregor where I'm yelling at somebody and calling out, being stupid and saying disrespectful things to people, because that's not me, and that's not the way I want, my kids when I have kids growing up, or kids that I'm not saying look up to me, but kids that follow my career or look up to me, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to show them that you have to be that way. When I see fighters start acting like McGregor and this and that, you know when it's real and when it's not.
Right.
And most of the time it's not. And then all of a sudden after the fight, they say, "Oh, that wasn't real. I was just doing it to market the fight." Guess what you are? You're phony and you're not getting my business again.
Right.
Yeah.
Besides boxing, Nick Fantauzzi, who is this guy?
Honestly, man, I'm like a big kid. Like I'm a big kid who just likes to have fun and be happy. Like people think, like
what do you do for fun?
Fun. I love music. I play.
You mentioned Sinatra.
Yeah, Sinatra. He's one of my favorite singers. I love music. I love all types of music from, Celine Dion to Alice in Chains to Led Zeppelin or anything, like all different ranges. I don't like country music.
You don't like country music?
I don't like country music, and I don't like dance music, and I don't like I don't like any of the new kind of rap stuff. Like I'm a 90s guy. Yeah, but it's I honestly love playing sports and music. Those are my passion, obviously seeing family and friends.
And you said you playing guitar? You play guitar?
I play guitar. I'm okay. Like I could play stuff, but I'm not like an amazing guitar player.
I should have asked you to bring it here.
I'd play. But I play. I've been playing since I was like grade 6. So however old that is, it's like 12 years old.
What about the ring walk music? What do you prefer? Do you already have like an established one, or?
I have a bunch of different ones that I've had. I've done Chris, like Soundgarden. I've done a few Soundgarden songs, and
never considered My Way by Sinatra.
That's a good idea. I didn't want to do that because Bernard Hopkins did it for one fight. I didn't want to copy him, but I have thought of a few different Sinatra songs, which is definitely going to happen in the future. I've done the Roy Jones "Can't Be Touched" because that's my song from back in the day.
Yeah.
You know how it is, and I'm pretty open to everything. But one time I came down to "Return of the Mac" by Mark Morrison.
Oh, okay.
It was actually an idea my promoter said, "Hey, come down to "Return of the Mac," and I did it. But everyone was kind of like, "Oh, that's different."
It's. My favorite Sinatra song is "When I Was 17."
That's a good song.
It's funny because I heard it when I was 17. I was watching. It was Sopranos, I think I watched, and it's the beginning of second season opening. That was the song, and it's like the whole playthrough. But it's like it was just so beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah. Even the new movie, the Joker movie, not new, but the Joker, they had "That's Life." That's one of my favorite songs. That's where the quote actually is from that I mentioned about. Yeah. So that's that was a cool movie because they had that kind of that music in. But yeah,
you're very good for speaking. I can't recall the cool quote that you said or someone mentioned during one of your interviews, but you said something very inspirational. I feel like either your Instagram or one of your interviews, but. I don't know why I'm bringing it up because I don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay. But the thing is, sometimes you come up with some stuff that is really deep based on what I'm hearing, and so that's interesting. It would be cool for you to maybe explore that,
I get it. Yeah. And it's good relating things like that because all of a sudden you might have someone who's not a boxing fan, but they're a Sinatra fan, and they're like, you know what? Yeah. That's true because everything in life, it's all relative. Just like boxing, everyone's like it's a metaphor to life. It's true. Yeah.
It's so true because it's just you in the ring and it's the other guy and the better man should win and everyone's watching you, and if you mess up that's your fault. If it's your fault, everything is. It's not like you have a team outside the ring helping you out, but inside the ring you're the main actor, you're the main character, and it's all there. Definitely, man. What's your all-time favorite boxing movies besides Rocky?
You know what? What's that movie that was with what's that guy's name again? He's a famous actor. He was in Casino, and there's a movie about Jake LaMotta.
De Niro,
Raging
Bull.
Yeah, Raging Bull.
Raging Bull was
a good one.
I remember watching that, and I barely knew English when I watched that movie. But that was such a weird transformation that you went through, to portray all of that. Have you seen Fighter? Fighter is a good one.
Yep, that's a good one.
With what's his name?
Mark
Wahlberg, and the other one, the Batman guy. What's his name? I forgot. The Batman guy. Everyone look up. The American Psycho guy.
Yeah, yes.
But it was just so good.
Yes.
Who was the actual guy? Mickey. The Irish guy who it was.
Mickey Ward.
Mickey Ward.
Mickey Ward.
But the movie, the acting, everything was so good in that movie. Yeah, I really like. That's like. After Rocky, that's like my all-time favorite. They're doing Mike Tyson movie with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
He just recently released the podcast with Tim Ferriss, but damn, I'm excited for Jamie Foxx to see like what they're gonna come up with.
You know what? You're right, and I'm gonna watch it 100%. The only thing is that I'm not excited about the fight. The movie is.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's a Mike Tyson fan, right? Like most people, and I've heard probably most of the stories of his life. It's gonna all be repeats, but I'm sure they're gonna make it good. But
I think that's gonna be the main challenge. Is like, okay, what is there that is untold? Because Jamie Foxx is a good friend with Mike Tyson, and it's funny. Jamie Foxx is like, he's like almost 60 years old. So I mean, he looks pretty good. So he looks pretty young. But yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, he's in his 50s right now, Jamie Foxx.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good, and he's working out and all of that. So I'm still listening to that podcast, it's like 3-hour podcast, which is pretty exciting. Like, you should check it out. But in general, like, I'm really intrigued. I hope they're not gonna go the route where they're just gonna like make his life, because there was like one life, whatever motion thing. I read Mike Tyson's book, man, like very graphic. I already talked about it here in the podcast. But yeah, man, do you listen to any podcasts, or like maybe do you listen to like audiobooks or anything like that?
Some
in your
podcasts,
head?
like you know, Joe Rogan. I've listened to a few of his podcasts. A lot of people would send me them and say, "Listen to this one." You know.
Question about current fights. What are you looking forward right now? Are you following boxing right now that's happening in the United States and the bubble matchroom in the United Kingdom? What's the fights that are you looking forward to?
Okay, you know, just like a lot of people, you know, as much as bad things, not bad, but like I don't really necessarily like either fighter, but Wilder and Fury, I want to see that. Nobody, like everybody wants to see heavyweights fight, right? And that's a fight that's intriguing because, you know, everyone's like, oh, Wilder sucks, this and that. But a fight before then, he's the best puncher in the history of boxing,
right?
According to everyone, right? So you know how it is. If Floyd Mayweather lost his fight to Pacquiao when they fought, everybody would have said how bad Floyd Mayweather is and overrated. Boxing is very unforgiving with that. And I don't play into that. You know, if you have 1 loss, 2 loss, 3, it doesn't matter as long as you fight the best.
What do you think Wilder's game plan should be for this fight, considering like how good Fury got in the last one?
Maybe stop loading up, you know, so much.
You think that was a mistake?
Yeah, because he tried too hard. Oh, I'm gonna land that big shot again. I'm gonna drop this guy with one big shot. And you know, it's funny coming from me, the guy who in his last fight, what I did was I hurt the guy in the first round and the second round, and then he was very dirty. He lifted me up and tried to throw me. You know, a lot of dirty stuff that he did. I just said, you know, I'm just gonna knock this guy out. So I as stupid as it sounds, I started doing the same thing that Wilder does and try to load up on the one shot because I knew as soon as I touched him, he's gonna drop. But the guy just ran the whole fight. So. You know, on the other hand, with Wilder, if he just kind of like, he doesn't have the boxing IQ, but if he kind of uses his athleticism, which is his, you know, best attribute is his athleticism and strength. If he kind of uses that a little bit, he's got a little bit better of a chance instead of just trying to land one big shot, because that's probably not going to happen against a good defensive fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think he needs to work on his skill more?
Just you know, like
on that Hail Mary punch.
Yeah, let's do Rocky coming into Clubber Lang again. You know what I mean? Let's change up the game plan. Let's you know, let's switch things up and see if Rocky can swim. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nick, we're already coming up to like 1 hour of our podcast, and I just want you to give an opportunity to promote a little bit about your social media and your business as well.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. You could find me on Instagram at Nick_Fantauzzi, FANTAUZZI. I have Facebook, Nick Fantauzzi, and I also have my team page, Team Fantauzzi. And Twitter, I don't really go on it much, but I'm trying to get into it. So,
what about your boxing classes? How can people reach out to you about that?
You can reach out if you're looking for whether it's technique or fitness. You can reach out to me on Instagram, and you can send me a direct message. You can send me an email and inquire about the training. I pride myself in giving, you know, very good technique lessons to people if that's what they want, or if they just want to get in shape. So.
And if people want to get one of those cool hoodies that you have on right now, where do they get them?
Well, I am actually out of hoodies right now, but I'm making a new order very shortly. So look on my Instagram for it, and you'll be getting one your way. So
thank you. Gotta get that merch, man.
Sounds good.
Nick, thanks so much. It was a great episode, and you're such a great conversationalist. It was a true pleasure. So I hope
Likewise,
we're gonna meet again and talk more, especially when your next fight is gonna come up and we're gonna promote it.
That'd be great, man. Thank you so much, and
thank you.
It was great.
I appreciate it.